Commander Lee Jin-ho walked into the massive crystal chamber, feeling like a child entering a giant's palace. The ceiling stretched so high he couldn't see the top, and strange alien beings floated in glowing pods all around him. Some looked like jellyfish made of pure light. Others resembled giant praying mantises with too many arms. The air hummed with energy that made his teeth ache. He had trained for this moment his entire career, but nothing could have prepared him for the reality of standing before the most powerful military alliance in the galaxy. Earth's entire future hung on what happened in the next hour. "So these are the humans," clicked a voice that sounded like breaking glass. The universal translator in Jin-ho's ear turned the alien speech into Korean, but couldn't hide the mockery in the tone. "The species that still fights with metal and fire." Admiral Zethkar, the coalition's military commander, towered over Jin-ho even while sitting. His four compound eyes studied the human delegation like a scientist examining insects. Behind him, holographic displays showed Earth's military capabilities in embarrassing detail. Captain Park So-young stepped forward, her uniform crisp despite the long journey from Earth. She had volunteered for this mission knowing it might be humanity's only chance to join the galactic community. "Honored members of the coalition, we bring greetings from the people of Earth. We seek to contribute our strength to your noble cause." The chamber erupted in what could only be described as laughter, though it sounded like a symphony of grinding metal and whistling gas. Some aliens made clicking sounds with their mandibles. Others vibrated in frequencies that hurt human ears. "Strength," wheezed a blob-like creature floating in a tank of purple liquid. "Your people still use chemical explosions to throw pieces of metal at each other. We mastered energy manipulation before your species discovered fire." Jin-ho felt his jaw clench, but he had been briefed on alien psychology. Showing anger would only confirm their assumptions about human primitiveness. Instead, he gestured to his aide, Lieutenant Kim Min-ho, who activated their presentation. The hologram showed Earth's newest destroyer, the Taeguk, bristling with railguns and missile tubes. To human eyes, it looked sleek and deadly. To the aliens, it apparently looked like a museum piece. "Behold," announced a crystalline being whose voice rang like wind chimes, "the mighty human warship. Observe how it relies on crude projectiles and chemical propulsion, how quaint." "Our kinetic weapons have proven effective in our regional conflicts," So-young said, her voice steady despite the humiliation. "We believe diversity in military approaches strengthens any alliance." This triggered another wave of alien amusement. A six-armed creature that looked like a mechanical spider tapped its limbs in what might have been applause. Diversity, yes, like keeping stone axes in a museum. Very educational. Admiral Zethkar raised one clawed hand and the chamber fell. Silent. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had conquered star systems. "Humans of Earth, your application for military membership has been reviewed. While we admire your enthusiasm, your technological limitations make full membership impossible." Jin-ho felt something cold settle in his stomach. This was the moment they had all feared. "Sir, if I may—" "However," Zethkar continued, his mandibles spreading in what might have been a smile, "we are not without mercy. Earth shall be granted protectorate status. Your vessels may serve as supply transports and evacuation ships, while the real warriors handle actual combat." The insult hit harder than any physical blow. Jin-ho had commanded Earth's most advanced warships, had fought pirates in the asteroid belt, had earned his rank through blood and sacrifice. Now he was being told his life's work was suitable only for carrying cargo. "This is generous," clicked another alien commander. "Most primitive species are not even allowed to leave their home systems. You should be grateful for this opportunity to serve your betters." Captain Park's hand moved instinctively toward her sidearm before she caught herself. Jin-ho placed a calming hand on her shoulder. Getting into a firefight with the galaxy's most powerful military leaders would not help Earth's cause. "We are honored by your consideration," Jin-ho said, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. "When do we begin our support duties?" "Immediately. A convoy of medical supplies needs transport to the outer rim colonies. Your crewed ships should be adequate for such simple tasks." As the session ended and the alien delegates began floating away, Lieutenant Kim Min-ho whispered to his commander, "Sir, They have no idea what they're dismissing. Our weapons may be old-fashioned, but they work. Jinho watched the departing aliens with calculating eyes. During the presentation, he had noticed something interesting. Every single weapon system the Coalition used was based on energy manipulation. Plasma cannons, particle beams, gravity disruptors, quantum field generators. They had become so advanced, so specialized, that they had forgotten the basic principles that made human weapons effective. Perhaps that ignorance will serve us well. Someday, Lieutenant, Jinho murmured. Perhaps it will. As they walked back to their shuttle, So Young fell into step beside her commander. Orders, sir? We accept their generous offer, Jinho said, his voice carrying a note that made his officers look at him sharply. But we also prepare. Something tells me the galaxy is going to need Earth's primitive weapons sooner than these advanced beings realize. The shuttle doors closed behind them, carrying Earth's representatives away from their humiliation and toward an uncertain future. None of them could have imagined that within months, those same primitive weapons would be the only thing standing between civilization and complete annihilation. 3 weeks had passed since the humiliating meeting at the Galactic Council, and Commander Lee Jinho found himself staring at the most beautiful and terrifying sight he had ever witnessed. The Coalition's wargames were taking place above Helios 9, a massive gas giant whose swirling storms created a backdrop of purple and gold that stretched across the horizon. But it wasn't the planet that took his breath away. It was the alien fleet. The Valerian mothership Infinite Radiance hung in space like a living jewel, its hull flowing and shifting like liquid mercury. Smaller escort vessels danced around it in perfect formation, their movements so synchronized they looked like a single organism. Energy fields crackled between the ships, creating patterns of light that hurt to look at directly. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Kim Min-ho from the weapons console, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and concern, "I've been watching their maneuvers for the past hour. They're not treating this like a military exercise. It's more like a dance performance." Captain Lee Hyun-woo, Jinho's second-in-command, shook his head as he studied the tactical display. "Look at those formations. Perfect geometric patterns, synchronized energy pulses, coordinated light shows. They've turned warfare into art." Jinho nodded grimly. The contrast between the alien fleet and his own ship couldn't have been more stark. The destroyer Taguk looked like exactly what it was, a weapon built for war. Angular grey hull plating scarred from countless battles, rotating missile pods that clicked and whirred as they moved, and the distinctive twin railgun turrets that had earned human warships the mocking nickname Metal Throwers throughout Coalition space. Where the alien ships flowed like water, the Taguk was all hard edges and practical design. Where they glowed with exotic energies, she was dark and silent except for the red running lights that marked her as human. She looked primitive next to the alien vessels, and Jinho knew that was exactly what every being in the Coalition fleet was thinking. "Captain Park," Jinho called to his tactical officer, who was monitoring communications from the other ships. "What are our alien friends saying about us?" Captain Park. So Young grimaced as she adjusted her headset. "Nothing good, sir. The Valerians are placing bets on how quickly we'll be eliminated. The Thrakari are actually laughing, and when insects that size laugh, it sounds like a garbage disposal eating silverware." The exercise parameters appeared on their main screen, transmitted from Admiral Zethkar's command ship. It was supposed to be a simple combat simulation, 2 fleets engaging in mock battle using reduced power weapons and energy shields to prevent actual damage. The aliens had done this thousands of times before. For them, it was routine. For humanity, it was a chance to prove they belonged in this galaxy. "Sir," Minho announced, "they're beginning their attack pattern." Jinho watched as the alien fleet moved into position with mechanical precision. Every ship knew exactly where to go. Every energy signature was perfectly calibrated. Every movement was calculated to maximize their impressive displays of power. Their plasma cannons began charging, creating a light show that painted the entire battlefield in brilliant blues and whites. It was magnificent, it was overwhelming, and it was exactly the kind of predictable behavior that human military doctrine had been designed to counter. "Hyun-woo," Jinho said quietly, What do you see when you look at that formation? The captain studied the enemy positions for a moment before his eyes lit up with understanding. They're treating space like an ocean, sir. Flat formations. Predictable. Attack vectors. No use of three-dimensional thinking. They fight like they're still bound by gravity. Exactly. Minho, take us into that asteroid field at Mark 77. And I want all missile tubes loaded with practice rounds, but don't lock onto any targets yet. Sir, Minho looked confused. The asteroids will interfere with our targeting systems. That's the point, Lieutenant. The aliens have spent so long perfecting energy-based warfare that they've forgotten the oldest rule in the book. Sometimes you have to get your hands dirty. The Taeguk dove toward the asteroid field, her hull groaning under the stress of sudden acceleration. Behind them, the alien fleet continued their beautiful, synchronized approach, completely unprepared for what was about to happen. As they entered the field, Jin-Ho felt the familiar thrill of combat. This was what humans did best, not the elegant, energy duels that aliens preferred, but the messy, chaotic, improvised warfare that had carried their species from cave to star. Contact, So Young announced. 3 Valerian destroyers moving to intercept their charging weapons. Let them come, Jin-Ho replied, his voice calm despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. Minho, I want you to forget everything. The tactical computers are telling you. Don't use active sensors, don't lock onto their energy signatures. Just watch how they move, and tell me where they're going to be, not where they are. The alien ships approached in perfect formation, their plasma cannons creating targeting beams that swept through the asteroids like spotlights. They were hunting for the Taeguk using the same methods they had always used, sophisticated energy detection and computer-guided precision. But Jin-Ho wasn't playing by their rules. Fire, he ordered simply. The railgun slug left the Taeguk's main gun at 30 kilometers per second, a simple piece of tungsten accelerated by magnetic fields. No energy signature to track, no computer guidance to jam, no exotic technology to counter. Just physics. Mass times velocity equals impact. It struck the lead Valerian destroyer's shield generator with a sound like thunder, and the alien ship's energy field collapsed like a popped soap bubble. For the first time in the exercise, the alien chatter on the communication channels fell silent. The celebration didn't last long, just as Commander Lee Jin-Ho was beginning to enjoy the stunned silence from the alien fleet. Every communication channel in the exercise area suddenly exploded with static and screaming. All stations, all stations! The voice was barely recognizable through the interference, but Jin-Ho could hear the terror. This is Outpost Gamma in the Kepler system. We are under attack by unknown vessels. Repeat, we need immediate assistance. Captain Park So-Young's fingers flew over her console, trying to clean up the signal. The bridge of the Taeguk fell silent as everyone strained to listen. Outside the viewports, the alien wargame fleet had stopped their maneuvers completely. They're not responding to our hails, the voice continued, now clearly panicking. These ships, they're absorbing our plasma fire. Every shot we take makes them stronger. The entire Valerian Third Fleet is, oh God, they're breaking apart like toys. The transmission cut to static, leaving behind a silence that seemed to press against Jin-Ho's chest like a physical weight. Admiral. Zethkar's holographic image materialized in the Taeguk's command center moments later. For the first time since Jin-Ho had met him, the alien commander looked genuinely afraid. His 4 compound eyes were wide, and his usually steady mandibles were clicking rapidly. Commander Lee, Zethkar's voice had lost all its previous arrogance. Our long-range scouts are reporting massive vessel signatures moving through 3 star systems. Ships of unknown configuration, approximately 10 times the size of our largest dreadnoughts. Chief Engineer Yang Soo-jin looked up from her station, her face pale. Sir, I've been running the data through our historical archives. The description matches something I found in the old Valerian databases, something they called the Devourers. The what? Yunwoo asked, but Soo-jin was already pulling up files on the main screen. Machine intelligences from before the current galactic civilization, she explained, her voice shaking slightly. The archives say they disappeared millions of years ago, but the legends describe them as ships that fed on energy itself. Every Weapon fired at them only made them stronger. Jinho studied the fragmentary data scrolling across his screen. Ancient warnings in a dozen different alien languages, all describing the same nightmare. Mechanical ships that consumed entire fleets and grew larger with each victory. They adapt, Sujin continued. Their hulls analyze every energy pattern. That hits them, and develop countermeasures within seconds. Plasma fire, particle beams, gravity weapons, they turn it all into fuel for their own systems. Another distress signal crackled through the speakers, this one from a different system entirely. Mayday, mayday, this is the Thrakari heavy cruiser Blade of Honor. The enemy vessels are replicating themselves. They're using our own weapons to build more ships. Admiral Zethkar's image flickered as his command ship began emergency maneuvers. Commander Lee, I am ordering all coalition forces to retreat to defensive positions. These devourers represent a threat beyond anything we have encountered. What about survivors? Jinho asked. There could be civilian stations in those systems. Any ship that approaches the infected zones will be destroyed or absorbed. I cannot risk the entire coalition fleet on a rescue mission. Jinho felt something cold and hard settle in his stomach. He looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew, young men and women who had volunteered to serve far from home, to prove that humanity deserved a place among the stars. They had just watched alien civilizations that had seemed impossibly advanced reduced to panic and retreat. Admiral, Jinho said carefully, request permission to conduct a reconnaissance mission. The silence that followed was so complete that Jinho could hear the hum of the ship's engines. Finally, Zethkar's mandibles spread in what might have been horror or disbelief. Absolutely not. Commander, you witnessed what happened to our most advanced battle groups. Your primitive vessel would not survive 30 seconds against these entities. With respect, sir, that's exactly why we might succeed where others have failed. Captain Park So-young turned to stare at her commander. Sir, what are you thinking? Jinho moved to the tactical display, his mind racing through possibilities. Look at the pattern. Every ship they've destroyed has been energy-based. Plasma. Weapons, particle cannons, quantum disruptors, all the advanced technology that makes our ships look primitive. Your point being? Zethkar's voice carried a note of impatience mixed with fear. Our weapons don't emit energy signatures the way yours do. We use kinetic projectiles, chemical explosives, good old-fashioned physics. Maybe, just maybe, they won't recognize our attack patterns as threats. Lieutenant Kim Minho swallowed hard. Sir, you're talking about taking our single ship against an enemy that just destroyed 3 entire battle groups. I'm talking about gathering intelligence that could save every civilization in this galaxy, Jinho replied. Look, these devourers have been gone for millions of years. They've probably never encountered human technology. We might be the only ones who can get close enough to study their weaknesses. Hyunwoo stepped closer to his commander. And if you're wrong? If our weapons are just as useless as everyone else's? Jinho stared out at the stars, each one potentially harboring worlds full of innocent people who would die if the devourers continued their rampage. Then we'll have died trying something different. Sometimes that's all you can do. The communication channel remained open, carrying the sound of Zethkar's labored breathing. Finally, the alien admiral spoke. You realize this is almost certainly suicide? Yes, sir. And you're volunteering anyway? Yes, sir. Another long pause. Permission granted, Commander Lee. May whatever gods you humans worship watch over you. As the Teguk broke away from the coalition fleet and set course for the infected systems, Yang Su-jin approached Jinho's command chair. Sir, what if the archives are wrong? What if these things can adapt to kinetic weapons too? Jinho watched the stars grow brighter as they entered hyperspace. Then we'll find out together, Chief. But right now, we're the only hope those people have. Behind them, the most advanced military force in the galaxy retreated in disorder, leaving one primitive human ship to face an enemy that had terrified civilizations for millions of years. The Kepler system looked like a graveyard when the Taiguk dropped out of hyperspace. Twisted metal debris floated where proud Valyrian warships had once patrolled, their hulls torn apart like paper dolls. Emergency beacons still flashed weakly from scattered life pods, but Jinho knew they didn't have. Time for rescue operations, not yet. Sweet mother of... Lieutenant Kim Minho's voice trailed off as the main screen showed what lay ahead of them. The Devourer ships defied everything Jinho had learned about spacecraft design in his 20-year career. They weren't built. They looked grown, like massive black tumors floating in the void. Geometric patterns of pulsing energy ran along their hulls like veins, and smaller craft detached and reattached constantly, as if the larger ships were some kind of mechanical hive. "Sir," whispered Captain Park So-young from her station, "sensors are picking up 17 major vessels, but they keep changing. The smaller ones merge with the bigger ones, then split off again. It's like they're alive." Chief Engineer Yang, Zhu Jin pulled up the energy readings on her display. "Commander, these things are massive. The smallest one is 3 times the size of a coalition dreadnought. And the power signatures, they're off the charts." Captain Li Haiyunwu moved closer to Jinho's chair. "Sir, maybe we should maintain distance and just observe. We're getting good sensor data from here." Jinho shook his head. "We need to see how they react to our presence." "Minho, take us closer to that group of smaller vessels. Nice and slow." As they approached, Jinho noticed something strange. The Devourer ships weren't scanning them. Every military vessel he had ever encountered immediately locked sensors onto approaching craft, but these ancient machines seemed to ignore the Taeguk completely. "They're not targeting us," So-young reported, confusion clear in her voice. "It's like they don't see us as a threat. Or maybe they don't see us at all," Jinho mused. "These things have been absorbing advanced energy weapons for millions of years. Our ship probably doesn't register on whatever sensors they use." A Devourer scout, roughly the size of a coalition cruiser, drifted past them less than a kilometer away. Its hull was covered in what looked like technological growths, antenna arrays and sensor clusters that had clearly been scavenged from destroyed ships. Pieces of Valerian hull plating had been incorporated into its structure like trophies. "Minho," Jinho said quietly, "I want you to fire a single railgun round at that scout. Minimum velocity, practice settings." "Sir?" Minho's hand hovered over his controls. "That's going to get their attention." "That's what I'm counting on. I need to see how they react to kinetic impact." The tungsten slug left the Taeguk's railgun at a relatively gentle 2 kilometers per second, barely a tap by military standards. It struck the Devourer scout's hull with a sound that resonated through the ship's structure, a deep metallic clang that made everyone on the bridge wince. What happened next defied all logic. The massive alien vessel shuddered like it had been hit by a sledgehammer. Energy patterns along its hull flickered and went dark. The ship began spinning slowly, its flight path becoming erratic as if its navigation systems had been damaged. "What the hell?" Yang Su-jin stared at her readings in disbelief. "Sir, that impact caused massive internal damage, but it was just a practice round." "They can't handle kinetic impact," Jinho breathed, his mind racing through the implications. "Their adaptive technology is designed to counter energy weapons, but they've never developed defenses against simple physical force." A larger Devourer ship, probably attracted by its scout's distress, turned toward them. Energy weapons along its hull began charging, creating patterns of light that made the space around it shimmer like a heat mirage. "Contact," So-young announced. "Large vessel approaching, weapons hot." The plasma beam that struck their port shields was unlike anything Jinho had experienced. Instead of the brief, focused bursts that coalition ships used, this was a continuous stream of energy that seemed to drink power directly from the Taeguk's defensive systems. "Shields down to 60% and falling," Yunwu reported. "Sir, it's draining our power faster than we can regenerate it." "All stop," Jinho ordered. "Minho, full railgun salvo, maximum velocity, target the center of that ship's hull." "Aye, sir, firing." 6 tungsten penetrators left the Taeguk's main guns at 30 kilometers per second each. They struck the Devourer ship in a tight grouping, punching through its hull like bullets through cardboard. The ancient vessel's energy patterns went haywire, systems failing in cascade, as the simple kinetic impacts overwhelmed defenses that had never been designed to handle them. The ship broke apart in a spectacular explosion of failing energy systems and venting atmosphere. Debris scattered in all directions, some pieces still pulsing with the strange energy that had powered the vessel moments before. The bridge of the Taeguk fell completely silent, except for the steady beep of instruments. Everyone stared at the expanding debris field where a ship 10 times their size had been moments before. Did we just destroy that thing? Minho asked, his voice barely above a whisper. We did more than that, Jinho said, reaching for the communication controls. We found their weakness. He opened a channel to the Coalition fleet, knowing that what he was about to say would change everything. Admiral Zethkar, this is Commander Lee. I have critical intelligence about the Devourer vessels. The alien admiral's voice crackled through the speakers, urgent and desperate. Commander, we detected massive energy discharges from your position. Are you under attack? Not anymore, sir. The Devourer's adaptive technology can counter any energy-based weapon, but they have no defense against kinetic impact. Their hulls can't adapt to simple physical force. A long pause. You're certain of this? Jinho looked at the debris field surrounding his ship. Very certain, Admiral, but there's something else. Long-range sensors are showing the main Devourer fleet, over 3,000 vessels, heading directly for the Coalition's defensive positions. They'll be there in 18 hours. 3,000, Zethkar's voice faded to horrified silence. Sir, I have a plan, but it's going to require something the Coalition has never done before. Trust in human primitive methods. As Jinho began explaining his desperate strategy, he watched more Devourer scouts approaching in the distance. Soon, the fate of every civilized world in the galaxy would depend on humanity's oldest weapons facing the universe's most advanced enemy. The irony wasn't lost on him. After being dismissed as primitive for so long, Earth's simple kinetic weapons might be the only thing that could save advanced civilization itself. The Titan Nebula stretched across space like a cosmic storm, frozen in time. Metallic asteroids, the size of mountains, drifted in slow motion through clouds of electromagnetic interference that painted the darkness in shades of purple and gold. It was beautiful, deadly, and exactly what Commander Lee Jinho needed for his impossible plan. Sir, Captain Park So-young reported from her station, the Coalition fleet is in position at the nebula's edge, just like you requested. Admiral, Zethkar is asking for final confirmation that you really want to do this. Jinho stared at the tactical display showing over 3,000 red dots converging on their position. The main Devourer fleet looked like a swarm of angry insects, each ship larger than anything humanity had ever built. They had been chasing the retreating Coalition forces for 12 hours, growing stronger with each skirmish as they absorbed. The energy weapons fired at them. Tell the Admiral to maintain his distance and watch, Jinho said calmly, and remind him that if this doesn't work, he needs to evacuate every inhabited system within 50 light years. Captain Lee Hyunwoo checked his displays one more time. Engineering reports all modifications complete, sir. We've stripped the guidance systems from every missile we have. They're purely ballistic now. No energy signatures, no computer targeting, just simple physics. Chief Engineer Yang Soo-jin's voice crackled through the communication system from the engine room. Sir, I've programmed the explosive charges exactly as you specified. When these asteroids start moving, it'll create a chain reaction that spreads throughout the entire nebula. The electromagnetic interference should hide our energy signature until it's too late for them to adapt. Jinho nodded, feeling the weight of every decision that had led to this moment. One human destroyer against the largest enemy fleet in recorded history. It should have been suicide. Maybe it still was. Lieutenant Kim Min-ho, are you ready? The young weapons officer's hands were steady on his controls, despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. All missile tubes loaded with kinetic penetrators, sir. No guidance systems, no energy signatures, just tungsten cores and chemical propulsion. The Devourer fleet entered the nebula like a dark tide, their ships spreading out to search for the Coalition forces they had been pursuing. Jinho watched them through the sensor displays and felt a cold satisfaction. The ancient machines were treating the nebula like a feeding ground, their hulls beginning to absorb the natural electromagnetic energy that permeated the region. They're doing exactly what I hoped, Jinho muttered. They see all this free energy and can't resist taking it in. They have no idea it's about to become their grave. Contact, So-young announced. Devourer scouts are moving through the asteroid field. They're using the rocks for cover while they search for us. Perfect. That means they're positioned exactly where we need them. Jinho took a deep breath. Begin attack pattern Omega. The Tyaguk began its deadly dance through the asteroid field, moving between the massive rocks like a shark among coral reefs. Unlike the energy-based precision weapons that alien civilizations preferred, Jin Ho's plan relied on something far more basic: cause and effect. Each missile that left their tubes carried not an explosive warhead, but a solid tungsten core designed to strike specific points on carefully selected asteroids. The impacts weren't meant to destroy the rocks, they were meant to push them. First impact successful, Minho reported. Asteroid 7 Alpha is now moving at 15 meters per second toward the cluster at Mark 44. Jinho watched the tactical display as the first domino fell. The tungsten penetrator had struck the asteroid with precisely calculated force, sending the kilometer-wide rock tumbling toward its neighbors. When it hit, the impact would send those asteroids moving too, creating a cascade effect that would spread throughout the entire field. Second impact, Minho announced. Asteroid cluster at Mark 79 is breaking apart and accelerating. By the third impact, entire sections of the asteroid field were in motion. Rocks the size of office buildings were colliding with others the size of city blocks, creating a growing storm of debris that moved with the unstoppable force of orbital mechanics. The Devourer ships, scattered throughout the field while searching for enemies, suddenly found themselves in the path of an avalanche they couldn't see coming. Their sensors, designed to detect energy signatures and technological threats, gave them no warning about the simple kinetic destruction approaching. Devourer formations are breaking apart, So Young reported, her voice filled with amazement. They're trying to maneuver, but there's nowhere to go. The entire asteroid field is moving. Through the chaos, Jinho watched as ships that had terrified entire civilizations found themselves helpless against the oldest force in the universe, Newton's laws of motion. Asteroids traveling at tremendous velocities smashed into their hulls, like cosmic bullets, tearing through adaptive armor that had no protocol for dealing with simple physical impact. Their technology is useless, Hyunwoo breathed. All that advanced adaptation, all those energy defenses, and they can't stop a rock moving fast enough. The destruction spread like wildfire through the nebula. Each Devourer ship that was destroyed added its debris to the storm, creating even more projectiles moving at lethal speeds. The ancient machines that had fed on energy weapons for millions of years were being torn apart by the same forces that had shaped planets. Sir, Yang Sujin's voice came through the speakers. I'm reading massive energy discharges throughout the nebula. The Devourers are trying to use their weapons to destroy the asteroids, but every shot just adds more energy to the electromagnetic field. It's making the interference worse. Jinho allowed himself a grim smile. The enemy's own desperation was working against them. Every plasma beam they fired to clear debris only made it harder for their sensors to track the incoming rocks. They were fighting blind against an enemy they couldn't adapt to or absorb. Final count? He asked as the last explosions died away. So Young checked her displays, her voice filled with disbelief. Sir, I'm reading total destruction of the Devourer fleet. 3,217 vessels reduced to scrap metal. No survivors detected. The communication channel crackled to life as Admiral Zethkar's voice reached them from the Coalition fleet. Commander Lee Jin-ho, this is impossible. You've destroyed in 1 hour what threatened to consume the entire galaxy. Jin-ho looked out at the debris field that had once been an unstoppable enemy fleet. Chunks of alien technology drifted among the asteroids like broken toys, their energy signatures finally dark and silent. Not impossible, Admiral, just simple. Sometimes, the oldest solutions are the most effective ones. Commander, Zethkar's voice carried a note of respect that had never been there before. The Galactic Defense Coalition formally requests that Earth assume full military leadership of our combined forces. It appears we have much to learn from your methods. As the Taeguk began its journey home, Captain Hyunwoo approached Jinho's command chair. Sir, what do we tell Earth Command when they ask how we defeated the most advanced enemy in galactic history? Jinho smiled, thinking of the recruits back home who would soon learn that their primitive human weapons had saved civilization itself. We tell them the truth, Captain. We threw rocks at them really, really hard. The laughter that filled the bridge was the sound of humanity claiming its place among the stars.